Your body does not start burning belly fat when you begin exercising. In fact, for a while, your body is doing everything it can to avoid it. That's the part nobody tells you. Because your body does not see belly fat the way you do. You see frustration, failure, a mirror you avoid looking at. But your brain sees emergency fuel, stored survival. And every single day, your biology is quietly trying to protect it. Even when you think you're being healthy, especially then. That's why so many people walk for weeks, cut calories, do brutal workouts, sweat for hours, and still look in the mirror, wondering why their stomach never changes. Because the problem was never effort. The problem was the signal your body was receiving. And once you understand that signal, everything changes. Imagine this. You wake up exhausted. You slept, but not deeply. Your stress is already high before your feet even touch the floor. You grab coffee, maybe something sugary, maybe nothing at all. Then you sit, drive, work, scroll, stress, snack, and all day long your body is listening, not to your intentions, to your chemistry, your hormones, your nervous system, your blood sugar, your stress response. Your body is constantly asking one question. Are we safe or are we surviving? And if the answer is survival, fat burning slows down almost immediately, especially around the belly, because belly fat is different. That's what most people never realize. Your body stores fat in different places for different reasons. But abdominal fat? That's emergency reserve energy, biological backup fuel. Your body holds onto it aggressively when stress signals stay high. And modern life creates those signals constantly. Not just emotional stress, biological stress, sleep deprivation, ultra-processed food, chronic sitting, overtraining, blood sugar crashes, constant stimulation, late-night scrolling, mental overload. Your body interprets all of it as instability. And unstable bodies do not willingly burn stored energy. They protect it, like a bunker, like a survival vault. That's why you can exercise hard and still feel stuck, because the moment your body senses danger, it starts adapting against you. Your metabolism becomes defensive, and that changes everything. Most people think fat loss is about burning calories, but biologically, it's about convincing your body it can finally let go. And the first thing controlling that process is insulin. Now, insulin isn't evil. Your body needs it. Every time you eat carbohydrates, insulin rises to help move energy into your cells. That's normal. But here's the problem. Modern food keeps insulin elevated almost constantly. Sugary drinks, processed snacks, frequent eating, late-night desserts, liquid calories. Your body never gets a true break. And when insulin stays high for too long, your body struggles to access stored fat because insulin is essentially a storage signal. We already have incoming fuel signal. So even if you're walking on a treadmill, your body may still prioritize burning recently eaten glucose instead of stored belly fat. That's why some people exercise every day and barely change. The fuel switch never fully flips. And what happens next is where things become frustrating, because eventually your body starts getting tired, not physically, chemically. Your cells become less responsive to insulin. Your energy crashes more often. Cravings intensify. Hunger becomes louder. Fatigue increases. And suddenly fat loss starts feeling impossible. Not because you're lazy, because your biology is overwhelmed. But wait, this is where most people make the biggest mistake of all. They panic. They slash calories, do excessive cardio, punish themselves harder, which sounds healthy. But biologically, it can backfire badly. Because extreme dieting creates another survival signal. Your body notices a sudden energy shortage. And ancient survival systems activate almost immediately. Metabolism slows. Energy drops. Recovery worsens. Hunger hormones rise. And cortisol begins climbing higher and higher. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. In short bursts, it's useful. It helps you wake up, respond to danger, stay alert. But chronic cortisol changes the entire fat loss equation, especially around the stomach, Because your body associates belly fat with survival readiness. High stress? Store more emergency fuel. Poor sleep? Protect energy harder. Exhaustion? Slow unnecessary output. Your body isn't trying to ruin your progress. It's trying to keep you alive. That's the strange irony. The harder modern humans try to force fat loss, the more survival alarms they accidentally trigger. And the body responds exactly how it was designed to, defensively. Think about how humans evolved. For most of history, food was unpredictable. Stress was physical. Movement was natural. Sleep followed darkness. Eating windows were limited. Your biology was built for rhythm. But modern life destroyed rhythm. Now your brain receives chaos all day long. Artificial light at midnight, constant notifications, processed hyperpalatable food, chronic sitting, emotional stress without physical release. Your nervous system never fully relaxes, and a stressed nervous system is terrible at burning fat efficiently, especially deep abdominal fat, because fat burning is not just physical, it's neurological, hormonal, psychological. Your brain controls the entire system. And here's what nobody explains properly. Your body burns fat in stages, not instantly, not dramatically, and definitely not in the first 5 minutes of your workout. At first, your body primarily uses available fuel, blood glucose, stored glycogen, easy access energy. That's why many workouts feel deceptively productive. You're sweating, breathing hard, heart racing, but your body still hasn't fully transitioned into meaningful fat oxidation yet. That shift happens later, after insulin lowers, after glycogen begins dropping, after movement becomes sustained, after oxygen demand stabilizes. Then something fascinating begins happening. Your metabolism starts searching for backup fuel. Fat cells begin releasing stored fatty acids into the bloodstream. Mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside your cells, begin pulling that fuel inward, and your body slowly enters a different energy state, a calmer state, a more ancient state. This is why walking can become surprisingly powerful, not because it burns massive calories, but because it lowers stress while sustaining energy demand. That combination matters more than people think. Aggressive workouts can absolutely help, but if your recovery is terrible, your sleep is broken, your stress is constantly high, more intensity can sometimes create more resistance. And this next part is the real problem. Most people are trapped in a cycle of false urgency. They want immediate visible change. So they chase extremes, extreme diets, extreme workouts, extreme restriction. But your body trusts consistency far more than intensity. Biology responds to repeated signals, not emotional panic. That's why sustainable fat loss often looks boring at first. Daily walks, better sleep, protein-focused meals, less processed food, stable eating patterns, strength training, recovery, simple things, repeated long enough to change the internal environment, and eventually, the body stops feeling threatened. That's when fat loss accelerates. Not because you tricked your metabolism, because your system finally feels safe enough to release stored energy. That's the part most transformations never show. The internal shift before the external one. At some point, something subtle changes. You wake up with steadier energy. Cravings become quieter. Your hunger feels more stable. Brain fog lifts. Your body begins regulating itself differently. And then one day, you notice your waist changing. Not dramatically, not overnight, but genuinely. And it feels different this time. Because the process no longer feels like war. It feels like cooperation. Your body finally working with you instead of against you. But there's another hidden layer here. Sleep. This may be one of the most underestimated fat loss factors on Earth. Because sleep deprivation changes hunger chemistry almost immediately. When sleep drops, ghrelin, your hunger hormone, rises. Leptin, the hormone helping you feel satisfied, drops. Cravings intensify, impulse control weakens, energy decreases, and cortisol rises again, meaning your body becomes more stressed, more inflamed, and more protective of stored fat especially visceral fat around the abdomen. That's why exhausted people often crave sugar and processed food so intensely. Your biology is trying to create fast energy, quick survival fuel, and modern food companies know this. They engineer foods to hijack reward pathways inside the brain. Hyperpalatable combinations of sugar, salt, and fat create dopamine spikes powerful enough to override natural appetite regulation. So suddenly, you're not just fighting calories. You're fighting engineered biology. And this is where many people quietly lose hope, because they start believing their body is broken. But it isn't. Your body is adaptive, protective, reactive. It responds to signals. The real question is, what signals are you repeating every day? Because your daily routine becomes biological instruction. Every meal, every night of sleep, every stress response, every hour sitting, every movement pattern. Your body is constantly taking notes, quietly adjusting, and eventually, those adjustments become your reality. This is why two people can eat similar calories and experience completely different results. One body feels safe and regulated. The other feels stressed and unstable. Hormones change energy output. Stress changes recovery. Sleep changes appetite. Muscle mass changes metabolism. Movement changes insulin sensitivity. Everything is connected. Your body is not a calculator. It's a survival ecosystem. And survival systems care about efficiency above all else, which means one of the smartest things you can do for fat loss is stop constantly shocking your body. Instead, create signals of stability, consistent sleep, consistent movement, consistent protein intake, regular sunlight, lower stress, strength training, walking after meals, small signals, repeated daily. Those signals slowly rebuild metabolic trust. And over time, your body becomes more willing to burn stored fat naturally, especially when you combine movement with recovery, because recovery is where adaptation happens, not during punishment, not during self-hatred, during recovery. That's why people who constantly overtrain often plateau. Their body never exits survival mode. Inflammation stays high. Stress hormones stay elevated. Recovery stays incomplete. And fat loss slows again. Meanwhile, someone else walks daily, sleeps deeply, lifts weights moderately, eats whole foods consistently, and their body transforms steadily, not because they found a magic trick, because they reduce biological resistance. And honestly, that realization can be emotional, because many people spent years blaming themselves for something their biology was responding to predictably. They thought they lacked discipline, when really, their body was terrified of instability. Your metabolism is not lazy. It's protective. That's a completely different story. And maybe the biggest shift happens when you stop treating fat loss like punishment, because punishment creates stress, and stress changes biology. Instead, start treating your body like a system you're trying to calm, support, regulate, train gently into safety again. That changes your relationship with food, with exercise, with yourself. And strangely, the less chaotic the process becomes, the more effective it often gets. You stop obsessing over every calorie. You stop chasing exhaustion. You stop expecting instant transformation, and your body slowly begins responding, not through force, through trust. That's why sustainable fat loss almost always looks slower at first, but stronger long term. Because you're building a body that no longer feels trapped in survival mode. And once your biology stops preparing for disaster, stored energy finally becomes expendable. That's when belly fat begins changing for real, not through desperation, through adaptation, through rhythm, through consistency, through signals your body can finally trust. And maybe that's the truth nobody explained clearly enough before. Your body was never your enemy. It was listening, responding, protecting you the only way it knew how. But now you understand the language. And once you understand the signals controlling fat loss, you stop fighting your biology. You start working with it. And that changes everything. If you want more real fat loss science explained simply, follow Burn Lab YT.